Today, Donald Trump was forced to finally comment on the Coast Guard domestic terrorists that his administration thankfully stopped before he could put into effect his plan to kill virtually every person on the planet if he was able to. So with that in mind, the idea that this guy wanted to assassinate politicians, members of the media, kill as many people as he could, when Donald Trump is asked about it, look how enraged he gets at what this guy wanted to do.
A Coast Guard member who was arrested for threatening Democrats and other members of the
I'm actually getting a very final briefing and a very complete briefing in about 2 hours after this.
Do you have any thoughts on this man?
I think it's a shame. Yeah, I think it's a very sad thing when a thing like that happens, and I've expressed that, but I'm actually getting a very complete briefing in about 2 hours.
Do you think that you bear any responsibility for moderating your language when it comes to that?
No, I don't. I think my language is very nice.
Okay, so he is this serious topic, and he, as president, is addressing it in a serious fashion. So I think that there's a couple of things to talk about there. First, he says, I've addressed this, but if he has, I haven't heard it. I mean, he was all over the Smollett case, like he was tweeting about that. Doesn't seem interested in talking about this. And the way that he expresses the thought, it's that this guy who wanted to start a race war, wanted to assassinate people in media and politics, it's sad, it's a little bit sad, which is not the way that he talks about other forms of potential terrorism, in my experience.
Well, I think one of the biggest things to realize at this point is how truly not curious about the world and current events Donald Trump truly is, and how objective of a statement that truly is. It's been, 60% of his time spent being in executive time, AKA not doing anything. There's no way that this guy really knows anything about what he was just talking about. I highly doubt that he has any information about what he really planned to do, how he planned to take it out, the repercussions that could have been. He talks a lot about Jesse Smollett because all he does is look for things to make him look good and things to get his base riled up, and that's all he spends his time looking for. And so I think that I don't think he's ever going to address anything other than whatever makes him look good. Because other than him paying no attention to it, when has he ever really demonstrated that he knows what he's talking about?
Yeah, and well, my thought is that he may have information on it and he may know what he's talking about, but it's not a priority to him. He does not care, in part because the victims that would be attacked are those he also attacks on social media with all of his tweets and the hate that he generates. And if he has to acknowledge that this story actually exists and that this man was planning to create all this race war and murder and just mass killings, then he's gonna have to acknowledge his own faults in his contribution to it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and think about what he is giving up. I mean, if you're the president and under you, the government stops potentially a massive terror attack, wouldn't you wanna talk about that, trump it up, literally, and say, look, we stopped this from happening. But they know how vulnerable they are in this area. They know that this guy not only weirdly had the same political opponents that Donald Trump does, both the obvious ones, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, they're the leaders, but then also Blumenthal for some reason, who isn't a politician that many people talk about, but he is a politician Donald Trump talks about a lot. Maxine Waters, she's not a leader in the Congress, but she does come up on Trump's Twitter account very often. And so I think they know how his language might have contributed to, if not the origin of this guy's sort of violent, homicidal, psychopathic tendencies, certainly in directing them.
Yes.
So at the end there, the second part of this video was him saying, no, I think my language is very nice. Which that's not only dismissive of valid concerns about the messages that he's propagating, but it's like a 3-year-old would speak.
I agree, and he chooses very simple words, and I actually think that it's kind of a mastermind just because of the vast majority of people in the United States. They don't necessarily speak at an educated level that would reach maybe Obama and his law school and the advanced degrees, and so he's actually reaching more people. And I think that that's also what played a role in him getting elected, is that people don't want you to speak over them, they want you to speak to them. And so he keeps it very basic, and of course this is extraordinarily basic, but it's also not substantive, saying, oh, I think it's very nice. Like that has no, even if it's just a very basic language choice, it has no substance to address what he was asked in terms of the gravity of this story and what had happened.
And it doesn't mean anything, and also, it's very convenient to weaponize anger. If he and his administration were to address this possible terrorist, incident that could have happened, then that would cause his base to think a little bit.
Oh, well,
it would cause
absolutely.
his base to consider a little bit of nuance and gray area. And
That terrorists
I think,
aren't only brown.
Exactly.
And that's why he's avoiding this situation,
Exactly.
because he's created this whole thought that terrorists are only brown people or they're coming from other countries, and the threat isn't white men. And by virtue of this story and this situation, he would have to acknowledge that that's not true.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think we should be thankful whenever this sort of terrorist is stopped. We should be thankful considering all of the work that Donald Trump and his administration has done to shut down areas of the FBI that are investigating right-wing domestic terror plots and cells and all of that. White supremacists, those sorts of groups, like they have deliberately moved resources from that to other areas. So, we're lucky when they actually get one of these, and there's been multiple cases over the past few years. I want to move to other parts of his administration being questioned on this. Sarah Huckabee Sanders was asked again about the way he talks, and we'll see if she responds in a serious fashion.
A white nationalist, he was planning a plot against Democrats, against journalists. The president has tweeted that journalists, the media, they're the enemy of the people. Is there any plans for the president to maybe tone down his rhetoric? And do you think this contributes to these sorts of extremists getting these ideas?
I certainly don't think that the president at any point has done anything but condemn violence against journalists or anyone else. In fact, every single time something like this happens, the president is typically one of the first people to condemn the violence, and the media is the first people to blame the president. Every time it comes up, we have been consistent and repeatedly said that we condemn violence in all forms.
Yeah, we condemn violence from all the very fine people on both sides. They're very consistent when they respond to this stuff. And I just have to say, aren't you just tired at this point of having to rebut stupid arguments like that? Like, yes, he's universally against violence when he told people at his rallies to punch people in the face if they protest. He's universally against violence against people in the media when he was talking about Greg Gianforte body slamming a reporter, and he did this motion. Yeah, he really doesn't like violence against the media.
Yeah, it's really kind of amazing how people can say this with a straight face, given all that Trump has done. Like, they found that he had sent more than 1,300 tweets attacking the media, and then for individuals and Americans to plot attacks against the media that are physically gonna harm them, it's kind of like, well, why do you think that they're doing that?
Yeah.
They're being incited.
And I also don't think people truly appreciate how dangerous this constant disregard for the truth really is. People seem to think that, okay, let's say Trump's gone in 2020. The precedent he set isn't going anywhere. He has created a vacuum of wide open for people who have no consideration and no regard for the law to take power and want power. And so this base of people who he's just continuously talking to, they're gonna keep getting fed the same nonsense for years and years and years and years from today onward. And so, we're gonna have to keep dealing with this, and that's why right now it's really time to fight and fight hard, because they're not gonna stop.
Yeah, and looking at the media, they seem to so far have learned little from the experience of dealing with Donald Trump. But I guarantee that there are a lot of politicians out there, crazy whack job right-wingers, some of which might be working their way up the ranks, some of which haven't started yet, and they've been watching Donald Trump and they've been learning from him, and they will be running campaigns based on the experience of what Donald Trump has taught them.
Because there's a market for it.
Absolutely.
So
Clearly, it's not gonna go away.
Yeah.
Yep.
And one other thing I want to say, I appreciate, I apologize, I don't know who the reporter was that was asking that question. And I appreciate that she was doing so, that she was bringing it up. And I know that they're worried that they're gonna get thrown out because there's almost about as little respect inside of the White House for journalists as there is amongst these domestic terrorists. But I am sick of will Donald Trump tone down his rhetoric? I don't want Donald Trump to tone down his rhetoric. I want him to stop deliberately antagonizing people to acts of violence against opposition figures in politics and media. I want him to stop deliberately using the term enemy of the people that he knows is going to get more people killed. I say more because we've already had people in the media killed. We've already had Cesar Sayoc specifically trying to murder people in media and in politics, and you have this guy as well. At a certain point, it's not an open debate about, is it really smart to use that term, or should you maybe like finesse it a little bit? No, he knows the concerns. He knows that people that work at CNN and MSNBC have to fear for their lives every day that they go to work now. He knows that Maxine Waters has to have extra security because he's worried someone is gonna try to follow through on the voicemail that was left on her voicemail machine saying that they wanted to hang her somewhere. He knows what he's doing. And I wish that reporters would be willing to be more aggressive in this area as they are in certain policy-based areas where they sort of have more cover. They don't have to worry about seeming aggressive. He's instigating violence. That's what he's doing. He's doing it intentionally, and I want them to say it.
The TYT Plus app is now available on iOS and Android. Download to get more TYT content at tyt.com/app.